When my grandma passed away, she left me her old wooden music box, the one she never let anyone open while she was alive. Yesterday, while moving apartments, I finally opened it and found a tiny camera lens hidden beneath the spinning ballerina. The box hasn't played music in years, yet the camera's light blinked red for a second before going dark. By the end, I learned who had really been watching, and why my grandma warned me never to wind the box fully. I grew up in my grandmother's house, a creaky two-story place that always smelled faintly of lavender and lemon polish. She was stern but kind, the sort of woman who ironed her bedsheets and folded grocery bags to reuse them. On her dresser sat that music box, polished oak, chipped at the edges, with a tiny brass key that looked far too delicate to turn. Whenever I reached for it, she'd swat my hand away. "Not that one," she'd say, her voice soft but sharp. "It's for listening, not for looking." As a kid, I thought she meant it was fragile. But once, when I was maybe 8, I noticed the bottom panel had 4 tiny screws. I asked her what was inside. She smiled without humor. "Dust and old memories," she said. "You don't want to wake either." That answer stuck with me, the way odd things from childhood do. I'd sneak glances at the box whenever the lullaby played, its tune slow, almost mournful, like someone remembering a song instead of singing it. When she passed last winter, the house went silent in a way that felt physical, like a heavy coat you couldn't take off. Sorting through her things, I found the box wrapped in a silk scarf, the scent of lavender still clinging to it. My brother said, "You keep it. You were her favorite." I didn't argue. I carried it home and set it on my bookshelf, meaning to wind it someday. Months passed. Life blurred, work, rent, the usual. The box became background decor until last week, when I started packing for a move across town. I remember the afternoon light slanting through half-closed blinds, dust floating like tiny ghosts. I picked the box up, and the ballerina inside wobbled on her spring. The wood felt warmer than I expected, almost like it had absorbed years of touch. I wound it once, gently. The song wheezed out, notes uneven, as if the gears were coughing up their last secret. Then I dropped it. It wasn't a big fall, just from the edge of a packing crate, but the lid snapped shut and something inside clinked. When I opened it again, the ballerina tilted to one side, and I saw a sliver of brass under the platform where she stood. I pressed it, expecting a spring. Instead, the whole base shifted a few millimeters, revealing a circular glass eye no bigger than a pea. I froze. At first, I thought it was a jewel, maybe some decorative piece. But when I tilted it toward the light, it reflected back in that unmistakable way, flat, dark, like a camera lens. My fingers went cold. "No way," I whispered. I turned the box over, searching for a battery compartment, a wire, anything. On the underside, beside the faded maker's stamp, was a tiny port that looked suspiciously like an old-style charging connector. I found a universal adapter in one of my drawers, left over from an old phone, and plugged it in just to see. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a faint red dot blinked once, like a tiny heartbeat, before fading to black. The hairs on my arms lifted. "Grandma," I said out loud, half laughing, half terrified, "what were you doing?" I sat there on the floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes, staring at that little red light. The logical part of me said it was a coincidence, maybe a motion sensor or some decorative gimmick. But another part, the one that remembered her warning not to open the bottom, whispered that maybe the box had been more than sentimental. I grabbed my phone and Googled the make of the music box. Nothing modern came up. The closest match was a model from the 1950s, long before digital anything. Which meant someone had modified it. I couldn't tell when or why. That thought gnawed at me until evening. By sunset, the apartment had turned into a maze of cardboard. The music box sat on the coffee table, its ballerina frozen mid-pirouette. I poured myself some coffee and called my brother. "Hey, weird question," I said. "Do you remember Grandma's music box?" "Sure," he said, distracted. "The creepy one you got stuck with?" "Yeah, I think it has a camera inside." He laughed. "A what?" "I'm serious. There's a lens, a light, everything. It blinked when I plugged it in." He made that low skeptical noise he always makes. "You've been watching too many mystery podcasts. Maybe it's just a reflection." "I know what a lens looks like," I said. "It's tiny, but it's there." "Then maybe she bought it secondhand." "Who cares? It's not like it's recording you now." That made me glance at the box again. The red light was dark, but I couldn't shake the feeling it was pretending to sleep. "I don't know," I said quietly. "It feels wrong." "Then toss it," he said. "Grandma's gone. Whatever that thing is, it's her problem, not yours." He hung up before I could argue. Typical. Night settled in, thick and humming. The street light outside cast a dull orange glow through my blinds, striping the walls like bars. I tried to keep packing, but every time I taped a box shut, I'd catch myself glancing back at that ballerina. Her painted eyes seemed to follow me. I told myself, just leave it. But curiosity is a kind of itch, you can't ignore it forever. Around midnight, I sat cross-legged on the floor with a screwdriver set. My apartment was quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock and the occasional groan of pipes. I turned the box over, tracing the screws my grandma had warned me about. "Sorry, Grandma," I whispered. "But you left me no choice." The first screw resisted, then gave a tiny squeal as it came loose. The second felt easier, almost like the box wanted to open. When the final screw dropped onto the rug, the bottom panel lifted with a sigh. Inside was a tangle of tiny gears, wires, and, yes, a miniature circuit board no bigger than a matchbook. Someone had gone to serious effort to hide it. My heart pounded. I reached in carefully, brushing away a bit of dust. The metal felt cold, sticky with age. There was a slot along one edge, the kind you'd find on an old camera, a space for a memory card. I tilted the box, and something slid free, catching the light before landing in my palm. It was a small, black micro SD card. For a moment, I just stared at it, the way you stare at something you don't yet understand but know could change everything. My fingertips tingled. Whatever was on that card might explain the lens, the blinking light, the warnings. But it also meant someone, maybe my grandmother, maybe not, had been filming something. Or someone. I set the card on the table beside the unplugged box. The ballerina leaned toward it, frozen in her eternal twirl, like she was pointing at my next mistake. That's when I heard a soft click from inside the box, even though it wasn't wound. The same slow rhythm that usually preceded the lullaby. 1, 2, like a heartbeat returning after a long pause. I flinched and looked closer. The ballerina hadn't moved, but the faintest whiff of lavender drifted up, fresh, as if someone invisible had just opened a drawer of her perfume. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother. "You okay?" I typed back, "I found something else." Then I looked at the little memory card again. It felt heavier than plastic should. I knew I should wait until morning, maybe show it to someone, but the question burned too hot. What had my grandmother been recording? And why hide it in the one thing she told me never to touch? I picked up the card, turning it between my fingers. That's when a second, quieter sound came from the box, a faint static crackle, almost like a whisper escaping through the gears. I froze mid-breath, the card pinched between my thumb and forefinger. Whatever secret my grandmother had locked inside that music box wasn't finished playing yet. I sat at my kitchen table with the music box between my elbows, the wood still smelling faintly of cedar and dust. My laptop hummed beside it, lid open, cursor blinking like it was impatient with me. The tiny memory card I'd pried from under the spinning ballerina rested in my palm, warm from my skin. I kept asking myself if I really wanted to look. Once I saw what was on it, I couldn't unsee it. But curiosity always wins with me, it's a bad habit. I slid the card into the reader, and the screen filled with a list of dates going back almost 20 years. The first file opened into static gray shapes, like snow on an old TV. I turned up the volume. The faint tick of my wall clock overlapped with another ticking sound from the video, then the static cleared. The camera had been pointed at a familiar corner, Grandma's living room. I recognized the faded wallpaper with its pink vines, the crocheted blanket draped over the arm of her recliner. The ballerina's stand was visible in the corner of the shot, unmoving. Everything felt still, so still that my own breath sounded too loud. A chair creaked on the recording. Someone moved in front of the lens, a blur of motion, dark hair, a hand reaching toward the box. Then came voices, low and sharp, though the microphone warped them like they were underwater. "Just keep it secret," a woman's voice hissed. "She doesn't need to know." My stomach tightened. I knew that voice. I'd heard it on birthdays, scolding me for being late. It was my mother. "Mom?" I whispered at the screen, as if it could answer. Another voice answered her in the video, lower, a man's maybe, though I couldn't make out words. Then my mother again. "We agreed. If she finds out, it's over." The recording cut to static. My laptop fan roared like it couldn't handle what it had just processed. I sat back, heart knocking against my ribs. What could they have been keeping secret? And who was she? Grandma? I scrubbed back through the clip, rewound the sound, listened again. The whisper was clearer on the second pass. Keep it secret from her. From Mom. The way she said, "Mom," it wasn't my grandma she was hiding from, it was her mother. My great-grandmother had died decades before I was born. So this conversation had to be old, maybe recorded before I was even born. I closed the laptop halfway and stared at my reflection in the darkened screen. My face looked pale, distorted, like the camera was still on me somehow. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that phrase, "keep it secret," from her. From Mom. The next morning, I called my mother. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy. Sweetheart, you okay? I found something in Grandma's music box, I said. A camera. And videos. The pause on the other end lasted too long. Then she forced a laugh. Oh, that old thing? Probably just a toy your grandfather tinkered with. You know how he was. Mom, I said quietly. I heard your voice. Her breathing changed. My voice? In the recording, you were talking to someone about keeping something secret. From her. Silence. I could hear the faint rustle of her hand covering the receiver, maybe pacing. Then, that must have been, oh, honey, that must have been a joke or something. You know how old tapes can distort sound. It wasn't a tape, it was a digital file. From the camera inside the box. Another pause. You shouldn't be messing with that, she said, her tone tightening. Your grandmother was private, she wouldn't like you digging around. She's gone, Mom, and she left it to me. Don't you think that means she wanted me to know what's in it? A breath. Then, softly, come by the house. We'll talk. When I arrived, she was waiting in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug that had gone cold. The morning light slanted through the blinds, striping her face. She looked smaller than I remembered, like the air had gone out of her. Your grandfather built that box, she started before I could even sit. He was obsessed with documenting everything, every birthday, every conversation. He thought he was preserving history. Then why hide the camera? She shrugged, eyes flicking toward the window. He said people act differently when they know they're being watched. Maybe he wanted authenticity. And the recording of you? I asked. The whispering? Her fingers tightened on the mug. I don't remember that. Then, quieter, maybe I don't want to. But you knew about the camera. I knew he liked to tinker. That's all. I watched her for a long moment. The air smelled faintly of lemons and something burnt. You're lying, I said finally. Her eyes snapped to mine, glassy and wet. Some things, she said, should stay buried. A shiver ran through me. What did you do, Mom? She stood, chair scraping the tile. Enough. I'm not talking about this. I left before she could say more. As I stepped outside, the wind carried a faint whiff of lilac from the bushes Grandma used to trim herself. I thought I heard the faintest note of the music box's tune in my head, like a memory looping. Back home, I stared at the box again. The ballerina leaned slightly to one side, like she was listening. I turned it over in my hands, running my thumb along the carved rose on the lid, and felt something rough beneath the hinge. Tape. I fetched a small knife, slid it under the edge, and peeled away a thin strip of electrical tape. There, hidden flat against the wood, was another memory card, smaller than the first, almost invisible. My pulse quickened. I slipped it into the laptop. This time, the video opened instantly. The image was clearer, newer. My grandmother's face filled the frame. She looked younger than I remembered, maybe in her 50s, but her eyes were the same calm gray blue. She sat in the same living room, the music box on the table before her. If you're watching this, she said, voice steady but low, something went wrong. I froze the video. My mouth went dry. The room around me felt suddenly too quiet, like even the fridge had stopped humming. I pressed play again. I never wanted to involve anyone, she said. But if you found this, it means the truth hasn't come out. She leaned closer to the camera. Be careful who you trust. Then the clip ended. I stared at the blank screen. My hands were trembling. Be careful who you trust. I couldn't stop hearing it. I searched the cards directory. There were more videos. 10 of them, each labeled only with dates. My cursor hovered over the next one. When it opened, Grandma appeared again, this time sitting beside a pile of envelopes and an old ledger. I thought it was just small amounts, she said. A few bills missing from the drawer. But it kept happening. She looked off camera, her mouth tightening. So I decided to set a trap. She turned the music box toward the lens. I installed this camera, told everyone it was broken. I wanted to see who would take what wasn't theirs. The next clip jumped to a new date. The lighting was dimmer. Grandma's voice cracked a little. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't the maid. It wasn't the neighbor boy. It was family. I sat forward, heart pounding. The money, she said, wasn't about greed. It was about something larger. Something my late husband kept from me. He left behind accounts I never knew existed. Someone found out. Someone I trusted. Her eyes flicked toward the door in the video, like she'd heard something. Then she whispered, I can't forgive her. The clip ended abruptly. I clicked on another. This time, the camera pointed at a stack of papers. A handwritten note filled the frame. The ink was shaky but legible. At the bottom, circled twice, was a name. My mother's. I stopped breathing. My throat tightened, a cold weight settling in my chest. I scrolled through the next video, another angle, more of Grandma talking through tears. I'll keep this as proof, she said. If she ever denies it, I'll have the recording. I slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing through the apartment. My reflection stared back at me again, pale and stunned. Proof. Denial. Betrayal. The words spun in my head like static. I needed answers. When I reached my mother's house again, she was in the garden, pruning the roses. The air smelled of soil and rain. She looked up, startled by the crunch of my shoes on the gravel. "You found more, didn't you?" she said softly. I didn't answer. I just held up the memory card. She sighed, setting down her shears. "I hoped you wouldn't." "What did Grandma mean?" I asked. "She said she couldn't forgive you. She said you took something." Her shoulders hunched. "Your grandmother had a way of seeing only what she wanted to see." "That's not an answer." She looked at me, eyes rimmed red. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." A long silence stretched between us. The garden buzzed with bees, louder than either of us. Finally she said, "I was drowning, all right? Your father had left. I had debts I couldn't pay. Grandma sat on money she never used, money she didn't even know she had. I told myself I'd pay it back. So you stole from her." She flinched. "I borrowed. She caught you on camera." "I know," she whispered. She confronted me. I told her everything, and she said nothing. Just turned on that damn box and let it record. She said if I ever lied about it, she'd have proof. "And the inheritance?" I asked. "The accounts she mentioned?" Her expression changed, a flicker of guilt and something else, relief, maybe. "She changed her will, left the house to you. I think she wanted you to find those recordings one day. Her way of passing judgment." I felt dizzy. "So she wanted me to know what you did. She wanted me to live with it." Every time I saw that music box on her shelf, I remembered. I looked at her hands, still streaked with soil. "You could have told me. What good would that do?" she said. "It wouldn't bring her back." The wind picked up, scattering rose petals across the path. One landed on my shoe, soft and damp. The smell of earth grew stronger, almost metallic. "She forgave you enough to keep it secret," I said. "She could have told everyone." "She didn't forgive me," Mom said. "She punished me." Quietly, I stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman who raised me with the person in the videos. "And now you're punishing me by lying." Her face crumpled. "I wasn't lying to you. I was protecting you." "From what?" "From thinking your family was built on betrayal." I laughed, but it came out hollow. Too late. She stepped forward, reaching for me, but I pulled back. The air between us felt heavy, full of things unsaid. For a moment, the only sound was the rustle of the lilacs and the faint creak of the gate in the wind. "Take the house," she said finally. "Take the box. Maybe you can make peace with it." I never could. When I got home that night, I set the music box on the table again. The ballerina caught the light from the window, her chipped paint gleaming faintly. I wound the key once, halfway, just to hear it. The melody stumbled, slow and uneven, but familiar. I imagined Grandma listening from somewhere, waiting. As the song faded, I opened the lid one last time. The inside looked ordinary, velvet lining, a small compartment for jewelry. But I knew better now. Every inch of it was layered with secrets. I took a deep breath, slid the first memory card back into its slot, and pressed play on the laptop again. Grandma's voice filled the room, calm, steady, unshakable. "If you're watching this," she said, "you already know the worst of it. But remember, the truth, once uncovered, belongs to the living. What you do with it is yours alone." Her words lingered in the air long after the screen went dark. I sat there, the music box ticking softly beside me, and wondered what she'd expect me to do next. Because somewhere in all that silence, I could swear I heard the faint click of the camera turning back on. I sat on the floor surrounded by boxes, my laptop open in front of me, the music box sitting like a quiet witness beside it. The files I'd recovered filled the screen, hours of grainy footage, decades of secrets. I'd already watched enough to know the truth. My mother had used the hidden camera to keep tabs on my grandmother after her memory started to fade. It wasn't malicious at first. It looked like concern. But the later videos told a different story: arguments, hidden tears, a desperation that made me sick to my stomach. The air in my apartment felt heavy, like the walls themselves were waiting for me to choose. The cursor hovered over a folder labeled, "Final." I clicked, and there she was, my grandmother, sitting in her old floral chair, the music box open beside her. Her eyes, soft but clear, stared right into the lens. "If you're watching this," she said, voice trembling with age, "then the box found its way to you. Maybe I'm gone now. That's all right." I froze. Her voice filled the room, warm and fragile. "I know what your mother did," she continued. "I forgave her long ago. She was afraid of losing me, the same way I was afraid of losing her." She sighed, adjusting her shawl. "Forgiveness is worth more than any fortune. Don't let this box turn into a curse." Her words hit me like a wave I didn't see coming. I paused the video and rubbed my eyes. The moral choice sat square in front of me. Expose my mother's secret, maybe even destroy what was left of our family, or delete everything and let the truth die with Grandma. I heard the hum of the refrigerator behind me, the soft ticking of the clock. Ordinary sounds, but they suddenly felt amplified, like the world was holding its breath. I called my mother. The phone rang twice before she answered. "Hey," she said, cautious. "I found something in Grandma's music box," I said. Silence. Then a long exhale. "The camera? Yeah, I know everything, Mom." Another pause. I could hear birds outside her window, a faint breeze. "I didn't mean to hurt her," she said quietly. She kept wandering off. I thought if I could just watch over her, I could keep her safe. "She knew," I said. "She forgave you." Mom didn't respond at first. Then her voice cracked. "I don't deserve that. None of us really do," I said, surprising myself. But she was right. Holding on to guilt doesn't fix anything. We stayed on the phone for a while, not saying much, just breathing. When I hung up, I looked back at the laptop screen. The video had ended, frozen on Grandma's face, peaceful, smiling faintly. I plugged in an external drive, hesitated, then stopped. Did I really want to keep these files? Did anyone? The rational part of me said yes, proof, evidence, history. But the part of me that still heard my grandmother's lullaby in my dreams said no. Let it rest. I took a deep breath and selected all the folders. My finger hovered over the delete key. The sound of the city drifted in through the open window, distant traffic, a dog barking, someone laughing. Life going on, indifferent to my decision. I pressed delete. The computer screen blinked, the progress bar crept forward, and just like that, years of secrets vanished. I sat back and watched the empty folder. My chest felt strange, lighter, but raw, like I'd just confessed something I didn't know I'd been carrying. Then I noticed one file still sitting there. A single image, a still frame from the video. Grandma sitting beside the music box, smiling, her eyes crinkled with joy. I couldn't bring myself to delete it. So I saved the photo to my phone, printed a small copy, and slid it into the frame that used to hold an old concert ticket. It fit perfectly, like it belonged there. By the time the sun started dipping below the buildings, my apartment was mostly packed. Cardboard towers lined the walls, each labeled in my messy handwriting. The music box sat alone on the windowsill, light glinting off its lacquered surface. I picked it up, feeling the smooth wood under my fingertips. The winding key still had a faint resistance to it, like it remembered being turned too far. "Thanks, Grandma," I whispered. I set it inside the last box, cushioned between sweaters. Then I closed the flaps, taped them shut, and pulled the lights off one by one. The apartment fell into a soft darkness, broken only by the glow of the city outside. That's when I heard it. A faint, chiming melody. I froze, my heart thudding. It was the lullaby, the same one that hadn't played in years, the one Grandma used to hum while she brushed my hair. The music box was closed, sealed inside a cardboard box with no batteries, no power source. Yet the tune drifted out, delicate and slow, curling through the air like a whisper from another time. I knelt beside the box, pressing my ear close. The melody grew clearer, almost tender, as if the ballerina inside was spinning again, unseen. "Okay," I said softly, smiling despite the tears in my eyes. "I get it." For a moment I just listened. The notes carried warmth instead of fear now. They didn't feel like surveillance or secrets. They felt like love, messy, imperfect, but still love. The song faded after a minute, leaving the room quiet again. I didn't open the box to check. I didn't need to. Some things are better left unexplained. When I finally stood up, the night air from the window brushed my face, cool and faintly scented with rain. I could almost imagine Grandma sitting beside me, her hand on my shoulder, humming that tune. I whispered, "I forgive you too." The clock on the wall ticked steadily, no longer ominous. Just time moving forward. I took one last look around the apartment, then turned off the light and walked out, the faint echo of the lullaby still lingering in my mind. As the elevator doors closed, I felt something I hadn't in months, peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from understanding. In the lobby, I pulled out my phone and opened the photo again. Grandma smiling beside the music box. For the first time, she looked like she was at ease, as if she'd been waiting for me to see her this way, not as a mystery to solve, but as a person who'd loved deeply, made mistakes, and wanted me to do better. Outside, the moving truck idled at the curb. The driver waved. I lifted the last box into the back, shut the door, and climbed into the passenger seat. As we pulled away, I looked up at the apartment window. For a split second, I thought I saw a faint glow flicker behind the curtains, red and soft like a heartbeat. Then it was gone. Maybe it was the reflection of a passing car. Maybe not. Either way, I smiled. Because for once, I didn't need an answer.